In the United States, there's only one haunting officially recognized in the historical record, a supernatural case so disturbing it even drew in a future president of the United States, Andrew Jackson himself. Today, we're traveling to a quiet town in Tennessee, where a curse took root more than 2 centuries ago, a curse that would become known as the Bell Witch. Just outside Nashville lies a small town called Adams. To most people, it looks like any other peaceful American village, quiet, modest, and easy to overlook. But beneath that calm surface hides one of the darkest legends in American history, a haunting that, according to witnesses, has never truly ended. It all began back in 1804, when a man named John Bell, his wife Lucy, and their children left North Carolina for the Red River region of Tennessee. Over the next decade, the Bells prospered. John became a respected farmer and a pillar of the community. But around 1816, that good fortune began to unravel, triggered by a bitter feud with another family, the Batts. A local farmer named Frederick Batts was injured in an accident, leaving him unable to work and forcing him to sell his land. John Bell bought part of it, at what many believed was an unfairly low price. Frederick's wife, Kate Batts, was furious. She accused Bell of exploiting her family's misfortune and swore she would get revenge on him and his entire family. But the tension didn't stop there. Bell also got tangled up in a dispute with Frederick's brother over the sale of a young enslaved girl. Legal battles followed, and the situation escalated until Bell was eventually excommunicated from his own church. Locals would later say that this was the moment when the curse of the Bell Witch truly began. In late 1817, the story goes that John Bell was out hunting on his property when he saw something deeply unnatural, a creature with the body of a giant dog and the head of a rabbit, covered in strange black fur. He fired his gun, but when he went to check the spot, the creature was gone. There was no blood, no tracks, nothing. Soon after that bizarre encounter, strange noises started filling the Bell family home. Heavy thumping sounds, stones being thrown against the outside walls, a scratching noise coming from beneath the floorboards. At first, John suspected it was the Batts family trying to get revenge, playing a cruel prank. But soon, things went far beyond anything a human could do. One night, his 14-year-old daughter, Betsy Bell, woke up screaming. Something had tied her hair to the bedpost in a tight, impossible knot, and slapped her across the face, again and again. Red handprints appeared on her skin, as if from an invisible attacker. The family was terrified, but John Bell, worried about his reputation, forbade them from telling anyone. They prayed for protection, but the haunting only grew stronger. Servants on the farm began seeing strange, animal-like shapes that could talk. Betsy claimed she saw the ghost of a young girl in a green dress hanging from a tree in the yard. And every night, the violent attacks continued, now targeting the other children as well. Finally, in desperation, John Bell confessed everything to his friend, a respected local minister named Reverend James Johnston, and begged for his help. The Reverend came to the house, prayed, and demanded that the spirit reveal its name. At first, there was only silence. Then, a faint, disembodied voice echoed through the room. It was unclear, almost mocking, and then it was gone. After several failed attempts at an exorcism, Johnston advised Bell to seek help from other ministers. But by then, it was too late to keep it a secret. The story of the haunting had already spread far and wide. News of the strange happenings at the Bell farm eventually reached a curious and skeptical military general, Andrew Jackson, the man who would later become the 7th President of the United States. He reportedly declared, "If this witch can stand against my bullets, I'll meet her myself." Jackson gathered a group of his men and rode to the Bell property, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery. But as they neared the gate to the farm, their wagon suddenly froze in place. The horses strained with all their might, but the wheels refused to move as if held by an invisible force. Moments later, a disembodied voice spoke out from the empty air, warning them, "Proceed no further." After a tense moment, one of Jackson's officers, either out of fear or respect, apologized on behalf of the men. Instantly, the wagon rolled forward again, free to move. Jackson and his soldiers decided to stay and investigate, but they only lasted a single night. The next morning, they fled the property, clearly shaken. He would later remark, "I'd rather fight the entire British Army again than spend another night in that house." Interestingly, not everyone in the Bell household suffered equally. Lucy Bell, John's wife, was never harmed by the spirit. In fact, when she fell ill, the entity was said to have sung to her and even left her fresh hazelnuts and grapes by her bedside. But John's health, on the other hand, began to rapidly collapse. By December of 1820, he was found dead in his bed. Next to him was a small bottle filled with a strange cloudy liquid. The smell from the bottle matched a strange odor coming from his mouth. It was poison. As the family stood there in shock, the spirit's voice was said to have laughed, booming through the house. "I gave him the dose that fixed him." The local authorities, unable to find any other explanation, officially declared that John Bell was killed by a supernatural entity, the only such case ever recorded in U.S. history. John's funeral, the voice returned, singing loudly and laughing as the mourners wept. Afterward, the haunting quieted down. It seemed Kate Batt's vengeance was finally complete. But the story wasn't quite over. In 1821, when Betsy Bell became engaged to a young man named Joshua Gardner, the ghost appeared one last time. It relentlessly tormented her, warning her not to marry him. Terrified, Betsy eventually broke off the engagement. And just like that, the witch disappeared. So what really happened in Adams, Tennessee, all those years ago? Was the Bell Witch a vengeful curse, a complex family conspiracy, or something truly beyond our explanation? Some historians argue that it was all just rumor and folklore stories passed down by people who could barely read or write. Others believe Lucy Bell and Kate Batts may have plotted together to poison John. But if that's the case, why did the children have physical bruises and marks? And more importantly, why do strange events still happen on that land today? Visitors to the Bell property and the nearby Bell Witch Cave still report strange phenomena, unexplained cold spots, disembodied whispers, and objects that seem to move on their own. One museum director tells stories of tourists who took stones from the cave as souvenirs, only to suffer a string of terrible misfortunes just days later. Coincidence? Maybe, but maybe not. 200 years later, the legend of the Bell Witch refuses to die. So if you ever find yourself near the small town of Adams, Tennessee, be sure to show some respect when you visit the old Bell home. Because in that quiet, peaceful farmland, something might still be watching. Thanks for joining me on this journey into one of America's darkest legends. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.